Welcome to the Ogden Way Podcast, a place where we tell the story about Ogden by telling the stories about Ogden's people. Today, I am joining a severely underdressed Mayor Nadolski for a Flip the Script episode where we will go beyond the headlines, what everybody's talking about, and what's been on his mind lately. So, do we want to talk about why I'm dressed better than you?
Well, severely underdressed. I prefer casual. I prefer field ready.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I just spent a good part of the day traveling in other cities down in Salt Lake County and Utah County and Davis County, looking at parks, recreation, and capital upgrades and facilities, and learning best practices from each of their staffs, and looking at ideas that we can bring back to Ogden, including new and different ways of looking at funding models, partnerships and leveraging partnerships and contracts through private parties and so on, in order to provide the kinds of assets and experiences that we're all after.
Right. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
I know that this was, I don't remember how many months ago it was, but obviously the Taylor Canyon school property has been a hot topic, and I know you've met with the neighbors there to talk about, what they'd like to see there. But when you spoke with city council about it a little while later, you were talking about obviously doing an audit of all the parks. Is that kind of part of this right now to see what overall we need for the betterment of the city? Right.
So we are, in fact, they talked about a lot of the same type of study that we're doing, and even referenced the same data sources that we use to figure out like park usage and pressures and patterns, timing, how many and when and why, and looking for areas of high utilization and low, and why is it low, right? And why is this one high? And they shared a lot of their findings and how they make more informed investments and decisions around their park spaces based on those sorts of studies. And so we're in the process of getting armed with information, and that's really going to help us make a lot better decisions, because we have don't quote me on the number, but I think we have like 44 parks in our city.
Really?
Yes, we have a ton of parks, and other cities don't have that. And so
it's interesting, because that seems to be a big sticking point that you hear a lot right now is, open space. And it sounds like we've got more open space than most. But maybe it's just not being utilized or built up the way that it can be utilized the best.
Right.
That kind of
okay. So you use the term open space.
Yeah.
And I use the term parks. They're actually accounted for differently in our records and in our plans.
Right.
And that's important because people often associate and assume they're the same. And so today we were looking at parks and open space in other cities, and our plans call for a certain metric our general plan calls for 2 acres per 1,000 residents, and our recreation master plan calls for 3. And we're exceeding the 2 by, I think we're at 2.98 right now. And so we're like 0.2 away from our goal in the recreation master plan, and we're crushing the general plan goal. Wow. But what we found is that we are actually categorizing those two things differently. And so our metrics don't include a lot of our trails and our open space on the mountainside. And I was visiting, none of the cities I visited today had nearly the proximity and access that we do, right? And so we've got to be really mindful in how we start talking about it, because we've, not on purpose, but we've recognized that there's distinctions, and that's an important distinction. The point is that we have a ton of parks. They're not amenitized the way people want.
Right. So is that Taylor Canyon area, is that being included right now in your
in
your numbers?
Yes. Yeah.
But it's not amenitized, basically.
Correct.
Or if it does, it has very minimal.
So Taylor Canyon specifically, there's the former Taylor Canyon Elementary School is a parcel that's up for discussion for a new park, and some people call parks open space. And so, but if you look at our park distribution, it's right in between 2 parks.
Yeah.
Right. So there's Thomas Park and Lions Park, and we want to know why those 2 parks aren't being used, because there's not a lot of use.
Right.
And how do we leverage use when there's a lot of demand? And it's pretty clear that none of those 3 areas are offering the kinds of amenities that people would use. I think that's probably what the finding will be. And that's kind of the case. And we've got different patterns of use around the city and different patterns of amenities, right?
Right.
And activation through events, sports,
Right.
community events,
'Cause
etc.
the Mount Ogden Park is used a lot.
It's busy.
Busy.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm really curious how busy that is compared to other parks too, because we have a lot of parks. And what parts of our city are we serving and underserving? And our initial assessments have shown over the years that we're underserving the north side of town. And that's important because a lot of the engagement we get is from the east side and on the south end. So we hear a lot of talk about Taylor Canyon, and that's important. We're going to engage, and we're going to do good things. But what about the north side that isn't engaging and is being underserved? And it's our job to make sure that we're serving and representing the people that are not here to speak for themselves.
Yeah.
That's the underserved parts of communities that don't engage in the same ways. And we need to be making sure that we're engaging and serving the people that need it most too.
And it's interesting because the people who do show up to, speak out, they also believe that they're serving the people that aren't speaking.
Right.
Or that aren't there. It's fascinating because you've gone through that with other issues.
Oh yeah.
That
all
are
the time. Right.
Controversial.
Yeah. But what they don't know, and I think we just had an example right before we started recording that we got good news that we got another person housed. And that was a person that came to me, asking for help. And it was through a connection that we made through community engagement, particularly in the Marshall White neighborhood. And that's an area of need, but it was that introduction needed to happen. And it's less about seeing things online and more about having that human connection that meet the person where they're at.
Yeah.
And when we do that and we get to leverage my seat of authority and power that comes with it, we can help people a lot.
Yeah.
And so we have resources that are out there always doing it. And we often funnel them in through my office too, through our engagement efforts, as well as through police, et cetera. And we can get people housed time and time and time again.
Yeah, it's kind of the stuff that you don't hear about.
Right.
That you don't talk a whole lot about online.
No, and I'm not going to because that's private for that person.
Correct.
It's important we keep privacy.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, and I've been on, I've seen both sides of it where, I'll read something online and go like, what? How dare they? Or how can the city do that? Or something like that. And what's nice now is you're usually sitting across from me on the couch and I'll be like, hey, is this what's happening here? And you can like, that's not what's happening. Here's what's happening, and kind of lay it out. And I think when you talked with city council about it a few weeks ago, just kind of the national rhetoric that we've been seeing on both sides. Right. And I think everybody knows that it is damaging our country overall, this national rhetoric. And both sides are equally at fault, right? Because they're always trying to get whatever influence they feel like they need to get based on an issue.
At the national level, yeah. Right. It's so, I mean, it wasn't just me talking about it a few weeks ago. You've heard a lot of people talking about it. The governor's been talking about it a ton. He's been talking about it for years. But it really ramped up, especially after the Charlie Kirk incident, right? And so following the governor's lead, you've seen lots of editorials in newspapers, different community leaders from across the spectrum talking about we need to take a time out in the social media sphere and the attention that it's getting it from us and the kind of energy and toxicity and divisiveness that it's creating. And now there's a big difference between toxicity and rhetoric and divisiveness, et cetera, that are driven by algorithms through social media, right? And driven by agendas, et cetera. Whether that agenda is from an industry, from a personal agenda, a political agenda, a partisan or party agenda, whatever it is. Those algorithms have been completely hijacked and totally optimized in order to drive what those users know that
reinforces.
It reinforces and it drives and it itches that scratches these little itches that we have because they know that negative energy and anger are much easier, right? To inflame.
Right. And so when you see something, I mean, there's been times when I've seen something and I'll just be like, immediately, just how, right?
Right.
And when the facts actually come out, it's much more benign.
Usually.
And it's boring.
Not always. There is wrongdoing out there.
No doubt.
No doubt. And there are politicians out there that deserve the kind of focus they get. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I will just say, I sat on a panel, I mentioned this in City Council on Tuesday, I sat on a panel on Tuesday, earlier in the day, with other elected officials, And they said the same thing that I said. They're like, look, in my experience, the overwhelming majority of elected officials and public officials, elected or not, are good, decent, wholesome people
Mm-hmm.
trying to do good,
Mm-hmm.
and often overwhelmingly doing good.
Mm-hmm.
But the algorithms will make you think otherwise. And that's not to get you to stop scrutinizing me.
Right.
Like, scrutinize me, hold me accountable. That's
Right.
fine. I'm totally comfortable with that.
But here's I think what the difference is, and I think part of it obviously is because I get to sit next to you whenever you finally come home
Right.
from whatever meeting you're at, and when I see something, I can ask the question,
Sure.
right?
Right.
And I think we tend to believe first something that you see and assume it's accurate, because sometimes some of the language can get a little bit, confusing.
Right.
And rather than question where they get that information from, we believe it. And then secondly, rather than question your elected leaders, like, what does this mean? What this person said this, or I saw this online.
Mm-hmm.
Explain this to me. So I'll give you an example. You had one of the big things you talked about at the last city council meeting was just how much Ogden is doing for homelessness and deeply affordable housing in the county, and compared that to what other cities within the county are or not doing.
Right.
And there was a question that was brought up at a later date or later time about, well, he's not actually being truthful about this because the state all these cities give us
Perfect
X
example.
amount of dollars.
Perfect example.
So what I did last night, I said, what is this person talking about $4.5 million coming from these cities?
Mm-hmm.
And so you explained it to me, and
It made sense.
it made sense. And then I still, I was able to find the document that this person got their information from. So I'm going to ask you to explain it to me again like I'm 5.
Okay.
So we do probably more than 82% of the homelessness and deeply affordable housing in the county, right? Going through your GIS information tools that you have. And the next closest city is about 5%.
Yeah. So the 82% came from a third party source. So it's not me just making it up or digging through our records. But what I found out yesterday through GIS confirmation is that it's possible that number is actually low. Where if Ogden has 82% of the shelter beds and permanently subsidized and deeply affordable and et cetera housing, yet we're only 32% of the county population, I think it's actually higher than 82%.
Right.
And then that, in addition to the next closest city being 5%, and that there are 6 cities that are 0%, and that there's another, which would make 7, that's 0.1%. That's effectively 0. Yeah. The point is, no one's helping.
Right. And I think you made that point very, very clear.
Right.
But, so the comment was, and
about the mitigation fund.
About the mitigation of, well, yeah, but the comment
the
was
state reimburses.
What they said, the other cities are
surrounding
paying
cities
$4.5 million, so that should help all of
Right.
the costs that you had outlined.
Right, and this gets to the point that, there will always be critics. It's fine. That's kind of the job. I guess it's part of accountability. But what that comment is referring to is the mitigation fund, and know that the cities around us are giving very little. What that is a collection of all cities in the state that are not shelter cities. We're a shelter city, and every other city that doesn't host one has to pay into that fund. But when you spread it out amongst that many cities, it's actually very little. And I've talked to many, many mayors who are like, oh, we're more than happy to cut that small check every year.
Yeah.
Not to deal with the things you're dealing with.
How much is the check? Do you know?
So
that they each have to pay?
No, it's different per city.
Okay.
I think it's based on population or something like that. Yeah. It's in statute, whatever those criteria are. I don't recall. But every single year at the Capitol, we have to fight for keeping those funds, because that fund is always kind of under attack to be used for other things.
Right.
Right?
So you have to basically lobby
Yes.
the state. So you've got your people from Ogden that are lobbying for that. So this last year, we got $4.5 some odd million.
About that, something like that.
does that help with what we're dealing with?
Yes, and I mentioned that in my comments on Tuesday.
Right.
I said that the state helps to cover some of these costs, but it's not enough.
Right.
And I said, these are just some of the costs I was able to find before I came to the meeting. I had a handwritten notes of some of the things I was finding.
Right.
I mean, it's not completely complete.
Not, right.
And I mentioned a number of things like the homeless court and the biggest vandalism and the repairs to the vandalism and the FTEs in Parks and Rec to have to respond to all that. Mm-hmm. Like, what does it cost that we have to close our bathrooms and that families can't use them while they're playing at the park because of the vandalism? What's the cost? There isn't one. You can't put a dollar cost on the impacts to a victim of these crimes. And I mentioned all of the crimes that Ogden City Police are responding to and how many of them require follow-up. Mm-hmm. That many of those are multiple, repeat, chronic follow-up. Mm-hmm. There's clearly a trend there, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the costs just continue to mount. And so that 4 point whatever million that the state gives us from the other cities is not even close to covering the costs and the impacts, not just on the city, but what about the cost and the impacts on you as taxpayers and park users, right? That's the point. So it fits really neat and snug in a nice little talking point.
In a nice little talking point.
That the mayor's a liar or whatever.
Yeah, when it's incredibly complex.
Everything's complex. That's why
I know this is
why I brought all this stuff. It's like
accounting. I don't even want to think about that.
Right? And I don't want to have to either, but I need to. And I've got people that help me do this.
Right.
And because this is the struggle. Mm-hmm. Getting back to this national issue, every city is dealing with it now. And we are dealing with it more than ever in our own city, especially during silly season, right? It just comes up. And so I'm getting buried with questions around, are you really corrupt in the way you finance
Are
things?
they questions or are they accusations?
They're
accusations. I don't think you
might
mind questions. I don't mind questions.
No, of course not.
But when it's an accusation or a conspiracy theory that's floated, and it's just surprising to me how quickly people will believe that versus just ask the question, like, how does this work?
Right. And I'm not, like, I can handle this.
Mm-hmm. No,
I'm not a victim of any kind. It's just, this is the real world. But what we're talking about is highlighting the need for us all, myself included, to be critical thinkers when it comes to the information that we're consuming. Right. These algorithms and these talking points are crafted to anger us and to accuse without accurate information or even evidence. Like, I've been called in the newspaper, referred to as a criminal, that I'm whatever bribes this, that, and the other.
It's not just the newspaper.
No, it's everywhere. And so,
everywhere.
But those sort of accusations in the past would require evidence. There isn't any evidence.
No, it's just what it feels.
Right. And because I'm a public official, that apparently is fair game. But I hold myself and my administration in this building holds ourselves to a much higher standard and burden of truth. Right?
As you should.
As we should. And so when you talk about finances, like when you talk about parks, just parks alone, okay? That if the allegations that we're not investing in parks, and a lot of this was highlighted in the city newsletter that went out last month. Right. And we did all of this without any impact or use of tax increase. Okay. Yep. It's $7.5 million of investments in our park infrastructure. 14 new playgrounds built in the last 5 years. Many of those built in the last 2 years. Right. You went out and enjoyed the new Big D Dog Park. You enjoyed it?
Yes.
Right? That's one of them.
Awesome.
But we're not just talking.
I had the dog with me too. It wasn't just me there.
Right.
I want to clarify.
Oh yeah, thanks. you and Boomer went and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But we've done irrigation system upgrades. That's also water conservation. It's driving in efficiencies and innovation, smart controllers and smart technology, et cetera, to make sure that we're saving money. So we've completed these projects, and beyond just the 14 playgrounds, we've done 40 projects at parks and recreation areas in the last 5 years, many of which are in the last 2, including committing $4 million to the Lester Park project upgrade. That's going to be an amazing park. That's a hugely important park. The point is, we have done a ton of work that doesn't get recognized, and it's partly our fault because we haven't been communicating as much as we are now,
Yeah.
Right? And so we've kind of allowed this narrative to take shape that we're not doing anything.
Or that when you do act or do not act, it was the wrong thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But even in recreation, we've increased, like co-ed flag football, we've increased participation by 28%. Boxing increased by 122%. Untamed sports increased by 128% in participation, all in the midst of national trends. Don't take my word for it. The National Survey of Children's Health reports that U.S. youth sports participation for ages 6 to 17 has declined, yet Ogden City continues to increase because we're investing in our people to create opportunities to participate, right? So those are just some of the facts. I mean, I can go down this whole list of all of the things that we've done that really don't add up to the talking points that you might be hearing.
Right. To some of the things that have, you see it across your feed.
Right.
Whether they're, from an organization or a person. And it's tough because I think sometimes, people don't really pay attention until they see something come across as negative, and then they assume that's true. That's the
algorithm and the desire to scratch the itch. You know what I
mean? Right.
The negative energy is very infectious. Energy is always infectious.
It is.
Negative more so. And the social media companies know that, and so do the professionals that use social media to drive narratives and to drive agendas.
Yeah. How do we?
That's a big reason why we're nationally so divided right now. And then do you think our adversaries are taking advantage of that? That's a fact.
No doubt.
Right? Our adversaries are helping to drive those wedges.
The rhetoric around it has indeed come down to the level of municipals, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's interesting because, I was really hoping that when you were elected, we'd have a reprieve.
For a minute, yeah.
For a minute.
Yeah.
And I keep checking to see, are you running for the election right now?
I am not on the ballot.
Because there's some things that have been said. There's been some, so you've caught some strays, I think, that when you talk about the rhetoric, that kind of stuff, because it's been surprising. But I guess the longer it goes on, the less surprised I am. And I've had to make my peace with it.
Unfortunately, right?
Right.
And what I've always told you is we can't control. We all have a vote. But that control and that influence is diluted at the national level, right? I mean, the amount of special interests and power, and it's off the charts at the national, right? Geopolitical things, it's huge thing. Those are huge deals. And we can't control that here. Just like I can't control macroeconomics that are thrust upon Ogden, even though everybody wants me to do everything I can on housing, et cetera. Those are macroeconomic things, right? Yeah. But the point is, we're seeing it more and more coming into cities.
Right.
And it's just not just Ogden.
No,
it's getting bad in Ogden, but it's everywhere.
So initially I thought, when I first started to see this, I assumed, I think wrongly, that we were seeing the rhetoric because people were upset with the national politics.
Yeah.
But the longer this goes on, I'm like, I don't think that's it. I think that there's a plan.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's a plan.
There's a plan. There's a structure. It's all organized and everything.
Yeah.
But when I talk to other elected officials from other cities, I mean, I don't know, it was about a month ago. I was at the state conference around. There's like 260 cities and towns that come to this, and I get to talk to elected officials from all of them. And without prompting, I had multiple cities, numerous, I'll say, talk about the threats of violence, the harassment, right? Like real instances and cases, because it was actually a topic because there was so much security at this event because of the collection of elected officials, and that we never had to have that before. And so those are all symptoms and responses to the ramping up of rhetoric nationally and locally.
Yeah.
And none of that changes the fact that accountability is real, and that I welcome it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Disagreement actually is real, and that's okay.
Right.
Like some of the policies that we've implemented, there's plenty of room.
Some people don't like the policies.
For disagreement. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. That doesn't offend me at all.
No.
What does offend others and everybody, I think, is the weaponization of those, and the optimization of the algorithms and so on, and to create the narrow talking points to capture that.
Or the intentional misunderstanding of the communication that you receive.
Right.
To fit. Yeah.
Right.
No, I understand that. So let's talk about how that has kind of wound its way into some of the bigger issues that you're facing. I thought we'd be done talking about this by now, but let's talk about some of the concerns raised about the Aspen House and how its impact on Ogden, and as we kind of started this with the 82% and the 5%, and there's been not an allegation I would say, but like a statement made that the state believes that the Ogden elected officials broke the law.
Yeah, not true.
Not true.
Correct.
So, do you want to speak to what actually happened with that?
Sure. There was a decision. In fact, there was a series of 2 decisions by our planning commission, which is a land use body. Mm-hmm. It's also a
non-elected
officials.
Right.
They specialize in land use, zoning, and ordinances and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And their primary role is to look at a proposed use, compare it to our general plan, and decide or recommend if it's consistent with general plan. Right?
Right.
So you have to interpret those zoning laws. Every city does this. And they made a determination that the proposed use for the Aspen House was not consistent with the land use and zoning for that area. And everybody has the right to appeal a decision by a land use body like the Planning Commission. And that body you can go to the ombudsman. That's a third party. It's not a legal conclusion or a legal finding whatsoever.
Right.
At all. It's just a determination on the land use interpretation. And so the allegation or the suggestion is that we were discriminatory as elected officials, and that me as mayor, I'm morally corrupt or whatever. That's just
I know, I read it.
It made no mention of any of those things because it
has nothing to do.
Because one, we didn't, and 2, that's not the role of the ombudsman. Those are the duties of the courts, which it hasn't been because it didn't exist. We haven't done that.
Yeah,
right.
And the reality is that when I asked you about this, it had nothing to do with the final decision of allowing that housing authority to.
Right. That was based on very clear state law that the Weber Housing Authority, which is designed to do housing across the entire county, outside of a city that has its own housing authority, like the Ogden Housing Authority, that's how it's set up and worked in state law. That if the Weber Housing Authority wants to come from outside of Ogden and do projects inside Ogden, they have to have the support and approval of the Ogden Housing Authority and the legislative body of that city. And that's when that's where the decision was made.
Right.
They didn't have the support, and they purchased the property before getting our support, just like they had done on projects prior.
Right.
So projects prior didn't go through the legal process and have legal requirements.
But see, that's what's so interesting. You're so willing to believe that Ogden elected officials broke the law. The reality is another organization broke the law.
Correct.
And
in the past.
And
was looking to make sure that they were following the law in this case.
Right.
Because we called it out. We actually weren't aware of the law because the law is actually described in the definitions of statute, which is not where lawyers would typically look. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of an important fact, actually. But the reason we said no is because it didn't fit within our land use, right?
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, they had purchased the property before coming for that approval. And that's why we bought it from them, because we think it's important that mission maintains, that the Weber Housing Authority do the work. They're doing important work, right? They're doing good work, and they need to do that work in the county because there's still need.
Definitely there's need.
And we still need to do the work, too, with the Ogden Housing Authority. And coincidentally, at the same time, we actually were doing that with the Solace Project, and we housed 56 people in the Solace Project at the same time. And we're working with the Ogden Housing Authority now to do another phase. Because the way that is set up and managed, it meets our land use. We have the ability to manage that project. And we're preparing to make sure that we provide housing for teenagers living in group home or whatever, and making it into your own standard living. Like that, there's a transition period that's hard and they need support.
Right.
And we're working with the Ogden Housing Authority to provide some of that.
Right.
At the Solace House. So we're focused on that, and then that happens.
Yeah.
And that is kind of part and parcel to what's been happening in our city for years, decades. That's why when I did the GIS, it's like 60-something projects or whatever it was,
Yeah.
or 40-something. I don't remember the number.
Yeah.
They're all over the city, and some of them were done by the Weaver Housing Authority,
Yeah.
and what's done is done.
Mm-hmm.
People need to remain housed. But
Mm-hmm.
moving forward, we're not going to stop doing what we're doing, and we're not going to stop doing more. But we are going to start expecting and demanding others do
Right.
their part.
And I think that you made that very clear at the city council meeting.
Because that's the problem with across the country in poverty is not everybody's lifting, and it's hurting people, right?
Definitely.
And so we're going to keep lifting. And I want to share with facts of
Yeah.
all the things we're doing, which I did,
Yeah.
while others are held accountable. Just like I'm held accountable for everything we're going to talk about, right?
Right. No, absolutely. And I think that, another thing that, you often hear when you talk about the rhetoric is that the city council members are just rubber stamping some of the projects. But then you came home the other night and mentioned that you got shot down pretty hard on a project that you presented to them.
Well, yeah, I mean, if 7-0 against what I was recommending is
7-0?
hard, yeah.
Yeah, that's
They were professional about it, 100%.
yeah.
And they were right, actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we do a ton of things here in the building.
Yeah.
And we team them up for review and approval at the council. And we had a project. It was the Wall Avenue corridor plan.
By the Union Station?
Yeah, by Union Station.
Ooh, we need to talk about Union Station. But
Yeah, we're not even going to have time. There's so many things. But
Yeah.
the point is that we put a plan in front of them. The public pointed out some things, rightly so. The council pointed out some things. And they said, this is not ready for prime time.
Mm-hmm.
This thing needs more work. And a vote of 7-0, they pushed it back to me, and I have more work to do on it.
Right.
And they did it professionally and respectfully and just said, well, we look forward to a report from our executive director, I think on the 18th, as to what the next steps are. And we look forward to a report back from the administration on how this can be and will be improved before we are willing to approve it.
Right.
That's the professionalism of checks and balances. Now, in Washington, D.C., that's not how it works.
No.
It gets back to all the talk about the rhetoric and the algorithms and everything. That's just not what our city council does. They work in a very professional way.
Yeah.
And that's just grown up governance.
Yeah. And it's, I keep thinking like the complexities are there, but when you can have genuine conversations and work together and collaborate,
Just communicate.
Yeah. And you come to
Right.
better decisions. Even if you disagree, you're still going to get to a better place.
Right.
And I feel like, so what is for a place like Ogden or any of these, all these other smaller cities that are dealing with the effects of rhetoric and what, people's ire is turned on because of whatever, it's the algorithm or the flyer you get in your mailbox, or you heard from somebody said this.
Like the pile that you brought from our
The
mailbox.
pile that I brought that I was.
Yeah. You're going to see a lot of those in your mailbox right now.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the solution? Because I think people are starting to see the rhetoric for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you've got a machine in social media and algorithms and all of these things that the goal is this, and we're always going to push towards that. So what is the solution for people, for taxpayers and voters to say, like, how do we actually find out the truth or find out what's going on?
Well, I think
and then no one wants to sit through a 2.5-hour city council meeting, babe.
No,
Very few
no.
people. I can't believe I sometimes watch it.
Okay, so a lot of that responsibility is on me to be transparent and forthcoming to share information. And that was the point of why I brought these books in. Just on my way in to here, I stopped at our comptroller's office and I said, hey, dude, I got to borrow your Gatsby Standards books.
Yeah.
Because I know that he's in his office reading these things for a reason, right? Because the points that are being made are going to be like, we're going to find something you care deeply about that we know everybody loves and wants, that I want and love and want, and so does the council as well. And we're going to make a point that you're not getting it, and they're going to have these suggestions as why, even though all the facts and the information are otherwise. But I don't even have time to read through all of these. There's so many accomplishments and investments,
right?
And then more to come.
But they're only going to focus on
They'll cherry pick
one
something.
Thing.
Yeah.
That is, that's going to get a bunch of people.
Yes. But
fired up.
But what it fails to recognize, and this is important because like oftentimes it'll be, whether it's about parks or it's about finances, they're going to suggest that we're corrupt or lining my own pockets, whatever the loaded terms are. That's rhetoric.
Let's give an example.
Right. That's rhetoric.
People from Taylor Canyon, when they came to city council, made it very, very clear they don't want high density housing.
Apartments.
Right.
So someone went out there.
Someone said that.
Correct.
When it hasn't even been a discussion.
Never will.
And it wasn't
ever approve that.
And something like that is scary to some people.
Yeah, and it fills the chambers, and then we have to unpack it and unwind it, and
but it's still going to stay in their mind, and they're still going to be hearing that from whomever they're getting their information.
Right, and that was a very strategic plant of a talking point. There's just no way in hell that's going to happen. Yeah. I know it's a brilliant hit job, but
because then, you were able to prevent them from the city council from acting on this, even though there was never anything to act on. Right.
I guess.
Right.
I don't know. I haven't heard all of the rumors, but
you should get online. It's fun.
Actually, as you know, I try not to.
I know.
But it kind of often traces back to how we manage our finances.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I brought this is like so if the allegation is that the BDO lease revenue is supposed to be used for critical infrastructure,
mm-hmm.
that's a misplay on words because the ordinance specifically says capital improvement projects. Mm-hmm. What is a capital improvement project? Like to the untrained, right, or
mm-hmm.
or unaware, they might not recognize that that's a project that's listed in our capital improvement plan.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a document that has to go through scrutiny from the city council to ensure transparency and accountability, right? Mm-hmm. And it clearly outlines all of the projects that are CIP, capital mm-hmm. improvement mm-hmm. plan projects, right?
Right.
And that is all required in ordinance. And when I say ordinance, I'm talking about law. City law. That at least 50% of the proceeds received from BDO lease revenue must be used on capital improvement projects. Not necessarily critical infrastructure, although there's a ton of critical infrastructure project in here.
Right.
Right? And so as we look to our capital improvement plan and our ordinance to choose what we are looking to fund, there are some reasons that we choose some over others.
And
for example,
not going to make everybody happy, obviously.
Maybe not, but it should make them happy when I leverage their dollar 5 times over with a grant.
Right.
That's one of the criteria. How much are you leveraging this $1 with outside funding? Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
So airport is an area we're being critiqued. We have done more leveraging of outside funding, particularly from the FAA and federal funds. Mm-hmm. Those are going to go somewhere. They might as well come here. Mm-hmm. And you do that by being competitive and providing matching and seed funds, right?
Right.
And we're doing a better job at that than ever right now. And so I've leveraged 5 times to 1 the funding for the airport terminal project. We put a little bit of money into that, and we got a ton in return.
How does the average citizen know that and understand that?
If they have to ask the questions and read the documents, and that's the hard thing.
Yeah.
I have a hard story to tell.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm not even close to done right now.
Yeah.
Because what happens is these expenditures and all expenditures across our city are required by law to follow guidelines, all of which are in here. This is the original. This is the initial book. It expired in 2011.
Oh my gosh.
So look, instead of printing a new book every year since 2011, they've been printing all of the elements of change. So some of this book's still relevant. Much of it's been updated piece by piece by piece by piece. And continuing to here. Okay. Mm-hmm. These are all the accounting standards that we have to follow in government accounting, mm-hmm. right? But you can't assume that that's happening because I have a city council that holds me accountable on an annual check for these things across the board, the whole accounting system, not just CIPs.
Right.
And the guidelines for how to do that are here. Okay. And so but you can't just trust me. There's a reason that we're set up to have checks and balances. Just because we're not fighting over it and creating headlines of dysfunction doesn't mean we're not accountable. So we are required to answer to a third-party auditor every year. That auditor is hired by the city council to audit mm-hmm. us and me. Mm-hmm. It's my responsibility to make sure that we're following all these things, right? And I'm more involved than you think. But I know about these things because I know of all this, mm-hmm. right? And that third party presents an audit findings or audit summary.
Right.
And we have had no findings. Last year we had no findings.
Really?
And outside this room, there's a wall with a plaque with probably 10 years of awards for the high level of rigor and accounting that we show here.
Yep.
That's worth bragging about. People should feel confident in what we're doing, not because I say so,
Right.
but because the Ogden City Council holds me accountable, and that I'm not going to wait until we get there to be like, oh yeah, I'll fix it. I
Right.
make promises. No.
Yeah.
Third party verified.
Yeah.
Right?
When people have complaints about how a budget item or a line item, whatever it is, how it's spent, what I just heard you tell me was the auditors have said that meets standards of the law.
Yes, absolutely.
And so maybe it's less about not liking how the city chose to do this or that. You don't like the law.
Or the accusations that I'm not following the law, that I'm a crook or a criminal or whatever.
Yeah, but the law is.
But that's
very
not
clear.
the case.
Right.
There's no evidence. And I have tons of evidence to the contrary.
Right.
Right? Now, you might not
It's
like.
easy to believe you're a criminal.
You might not like the decisions we're making. There's room for that. I understand that. It's okay. Right?
Yeah.
But talk about it in plain language and be accurate and right about that.
So what would you say, as we're talking about this, what would you say, kind of going back to my question is, how does someone that's on social media and is seeing these things, how do they figure out how to stop the rhetoric or tone the rhetoric down or find out what the answer actually is? Because I will tell you that trying to get into a discussion or argument with someone online,
It's not helpful.
There's
nothing helpful about it.
I think my boss, he said, you don't want to get into an argument online ever because it's like wrestling a pig. I'm not saying that the people online are pigs. So just stay with the metaphor.
Wait for the fireworks, pop your popcorn. Here it
Pop popcorn. Here we go. But because you both just get muddy.
Right.
But the pig likes it. Again, no one's a pig online. See how careful I have to be?
Right.
So how should we in Ogden as citizens fix this?
So, like I started to say before, part of that responsibility is on me to make these kinds of things known.
Right.
Right. I'm not showing all this so that people are like overwhelmed and that they won't look into ours.
Right.
I'm totally comfortable proving up. Right. And in fact, don't take my word for it. Take the third party word for it.
Yeah. When you have nothing to hide,
that third
sunshine
party
isn't a problem, right?
Right. And that third party has legal requirements too. And they wouldn't be in operation if they were breaking the law all the time just to do me some kind of favor. Right. And so, but I think that the responsibility, it's mine to follow the law.
Right.
Clearly.
Right.
Plain and simple, unapologetic. I'm all in on that. But I think the responsibility for all of us is to make sure that we recognize that identify rhetoric, identify emotional triggers, recognize the algorithms, and recognize that there's more information out there. Like if you wanted to understand all this, you're more than welcome.
Yeah.
We put our budget out there every year in full.
Yeah.
Right. And we go through comprehensive audits and so on.
And if something seems particularly inflammatory and you've never heard it before,
right,
maybe look into it a little bit more.
There's probably more to the story.
Yeah.
And I just don't want people to come away from this discussion feeling like, oh, the mayor's just telling everybody, don't worry, I got it. Right? That's not the point.
No, I know.
Even like these things are in place for a reason because there have been examples of abuse. Right?
Right.
And we would be naive and we would be misleading if we said that it's not ever possible here. Right?
Right.
Working in government is hard. Working in public administration is a completely different set of rules.
Yeah.
Right? And we're always working to improve ourselves. Right?
Absolutely.
There's just a lot to it.
Yeah.
And some of these discussions should, I would hope, make people more comfortable. That it's not just taking me and my word for it. I've got staff that are professionals. They're experts in these things. But that's not enough either. That's why we have standards. Right?
Yeah.
And then that's why we have audits.
Yeah.
And that's why I have a city council that hires their own auditor, right? To ensure that I am following all these standards. and that so are all my experts. There's systems in place to ensure that we minimize the abuse and fraud and waste, et cetera, as much as possible, right? And you cannot compare our budget to the federal budget and all of the quote waste and fraud and abuse and bloat, whatever.
Yeah.
But and there's always room. I'm driving an enormous initiative to find efficiencies fiscally.
Yeah.
All the time.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's hard to communicate all of that because it's just so much.
So maybe what the citizens can do is just, hey, ask the question, email it, send a question in. You've got a lot of different ways that you can contact someone in the city or you. I've had plenty of friends say, hey, what's going on with this? I don't know. Let me ask Ben. Right.
Right.
We appreciate your time. Thank you for, talking about kind of calling it out. I think it's important. I think that a lot of people have appreciated that and that we can make this a better community by, being open and, ask the questions. Don't assume the worst, but call it out if you do see an issue.
Well, it gets back to a point I've said before and how I was raised. And I remember it distinctly. It was in the humanities class in 7th grade taught by Mr. Ivanovich. And he asked us the question, he challenged us. It was a critical thinking thing. Is man inherently evil or inherently good? And that was a discussion that went on for weeks in our class. And I remember going home and asking my parents about it and reflecting on it. And I am raised and I live my life believing in people. It doesn't mean I'm naive. It doesn't mean that I don't double check or that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if we all assume that we're all evil, that's all you're ever going to think because it's all you're ever going to see because that's all you ever think.
Yeah,
you know
if you're looking for it, you're going to find it. You're going to see it. That's all you're going to see.
Because that's all you're capable of seeing if that's what you think anybody and everybody is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's out there. I get it. Mm-hmm. It is. That's why we have these things.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But anyway, the point is, like for a call to action, is that let's all take a deep breath. Let's all think more critically, recognize what's happening at the national level. Mm-hmm. And learn to spot it even here at the local level.
And maybe understand where things are coming from.
Right.
And where did that come from?
And you have your right to cast your vote and have your opinion. That's okay.
Yeah.
Whether it's an informed opinion or not, it's your right. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep. And you can say what you want to say online.
It's your right.
Just be aware that when you read those things, take a step back, I guess.
Just think about what else don't I know. And I think hopefully listening to today's discussion has been helpful for some.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, maybe.
So thanks for asking. Thanks for letting me talk so much.
Yeah. Well, thanks for dressing up.
You see what I deal with?
Well, I appreciate you guys tuning in into today's podcast. And, please share this. And, again, ask questions when you see things. Ask questions. And then make sure you vote. And go trick-or-treating, I guess. Maybe because it's October.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.